says that they make the best Cuban coffee, but they're all wrong. I make the best Cuban coffee, and I'm going to show you how you can also. So today I'm going to show you how to use the Bialetti 1 cup mocha pot. This is called the Bialetti Mocha Express. It comes in 1 cup, which is really 2 ounces, 3 cup, which is really 6 ounces, 6 cup, and so on. Since I'm the one who's going to be drinking this by myself today, the first thing I start off with is a clean mocha pot. And I'm going to fill it up with water just to the center of this valve here. See where my fingernail is? Right where that little tip is in the valve. Okay? Anywhere in there is good. It'll work. Okay, next, this is where the coffee goes. Make sure that it's nice and clean, rinsed out. Next, I'm going to take a small teaspoon, make sure it's dry, and I'm going to pack this area with Pilon espresso coffee. Okay, Bustelo is also very good, and I hear good things about La Llave. There are different brands of Cuban style coffee. You might want to try what's available. Pilon is my favorite. So what I do is I take it. Since I tend to spill things, I fill things up in the sink. That's just me. Okay, and I fill this section up, and as you can see, I'm using the back of the spoon because it's a very fluffy, this type of espresso, it's a very fluffy grind, and it's actually meant to be just slightly compressed. If you don't tap it down, the coffee will be thinner. If you like your coffee thinner, then don't tap it down. But I like my coffee thick. And basically you fill it up all the way to the top. Another reason why I'm doing this in the sink is because, as you can see, I'm actually so far to the top, I've got to scrape a little bit off the gasket, off the very top of it. So I take the spoon and I clean off the top of where the gasket goes. Okay, now here I have the top part, and I took it completely apart to clean it. So here is the bottom filter. I set that in there, and here is the rubber gasket. About once a year you're going to have to replace these. They cost no more than $1. I can get them for you if you want. You screw it together like so. That's why this pot, by the way, is shaped the way it is. It doesn't have to be cranked down. Okay, if you have to tighten it too tight, it's time for a new gasket. You just, because remember, you have to take these things apart too. Okay, then you leave it open, come over here. The object is to not burn this handle, so we don't put the pot in the middle, we put it on the edge. And you might also wonder, why am I even cooking on a hot plate? That's so that the size of this doesn't cause a thermal shock on my ceramic stove. If I were to crank this up all the way, this would be super hot and this wouldn't, and it may crack. So I go to the extra step of using an old-fashioned hot plate. Very inexpensive. I crank it up all the way, and I set a timer for 3 minutes and 15 seconds. That time may vary for you. It might be a little more, might be a little less. I rinse off my spoon and dry it. Then the next half of the equation is I get sugar. I use regular sugar. Lots of people like brown sugar. I hear it works just as well. I use regular sugar. So I'm making 2 ounces of Cuban style coffee, which means I'm just going to use 2 of these teaspoons. Okay, what we're waiting for and why we have the lid off and why I set a timer is immediately when the coffee starts coming out of here, the very first few drops, those are the thickest, brownest, hottest samples of your coffee. Immediately when that comes out, I'm going to come out and carefully pour just a little bit into this and stir it to make my espumita. And what I'm going to look for is a consistency similar to peanut butter and about the color of peanut butter. But right now we're simply waiting for the coffee to brew. Okay, as I said before, now when you first see it come out, that's when you immediately want to take it off the stove and mix it and then put it back. Okay, there went my timer. That would normally tell me if I was doing something else, I better come over here and watch it because it's going to come out in the next 30 seconds. So let's see what happens. There it is. Okay. So I close it and I carefully, this is a tricky part, just put a few drops in. I put it back on the burner and now I stir. And I have a little magic to it. I actually did this perfect the first time. The first few times you do this, it's going to be tricky. Okay, now you see the color starting to change, and I'm stirring this, and stirring it, and it's turning into like a tannish color. This is caramelizing the sugar, and is creating what will be a foam, a sugary foam that sits on top of the coffee. And it is part of the magic. And also right now the rest of the coffee is brewing inside the mocha pot. And as you can see, that is what we finally have. It's kind of like a paste. It's semi-thick. That's absolutely perfect. And we come over to our mocha pot and we can hear it bubbling. We know that it's done now. So I take it, I turn my heat all the way off because I'm done with it. I pour it into the cup and I slowly stir it. I'm now done with this. I'm going to put this over here. And I'm going to stir it now, but not fast, slowly, because now all this sugar is going to continue the caramelization process. And you see some of it. It's basically saturated with sugar, but that's all right because the sugar that you're not going to drink is going to float to the bottom, and the espumita floats on top. You actually drink the coffee through it. And the end result, I'm going to lift it up. Somewhere about 1/4 inch of espumita on the top. This is absolutely picture perfect. I unplug my hot plate. I grab my little espresso cup. Any small cup is a good idea. Because the espumita sits on top, a small cup is better than a large cup because that gives you a greater depth of the foam on top. Now some Cuban ladies like to shake it when they're pouring it. The idea is to keep the espumita in the coffee. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is simply to take a spoon and pour it in. But you want to make sure you get all that nice goodness. And you may also notice that left in the cup is a good amount of sugar. That's the extra sugar. So in this espresso coffee, and I'm going to tell you now, this is perfect. Perfecto. Is less than 2 teaspoons of sugar. And that's it. It's now time to enjoy it.